Memphis, 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 Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eye no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
Yo, what up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. Tonight, we're coming off a loss, but listen, I don't know if you can celebrate a loss like we will tonight, but the Grizzlies played very well. It looks like we have a lot of positive things that's going to happen. We now take on the Rockets. Looks like it is on the 22nd. So it's the return of Dillon Brooks, not to Memphis, but the Grizzlies returning to Houston. And so we're going to talk a lot about this game and what this all entails. The Grizzlies had a shot to win, didn't fall. But all in all, we have a lot to talk about tonight. Tonight, we're bringing in a guy, Bryson Wright, with us. So let's get to the show. Whoa. I don't know why. Why does it look this way? What is going on? There we go. Hey. What's up, Bryson? Man, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, but man, that's a tough way to lose. But honestly, the fact they were even in that game is kind of crazy. Like all things considered. Yeah. But yeah, that was a tough one for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So the Grizzlies obviously take the loss tonight, and it was a game that very early on, it looked like the Grizzlies were going to get just demolished. Probably the first 5 minutes or so, the game, it started off at like plus 11.5, plus 12.5, and then ballooned up to plus 15.5, in the odds. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm going to wait because I really think the Grizzlies could keep this within 12, 15. But I think it's going to balloon up to like 18, 19, maybe 20 because Boston is a very good first quarter team. And the Grizzlies just came right back and answered. And so I thought that was a positive thing, seeing the Grizzlies come out in the first quarter and bounce back after you're kind of taking a little bit of a jab early on from Boston.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I mean, in the first couple minutes of the game, especially, it felt like in that Spurs game, they didn't have that quick response. And then They obviously had to come all the way back. Obviously, you're dealing with a championship contending team, different than playing the Spurs last night. But just to see them actually kind of come back and punch back, and it really felt like even though the Celtics made their runs, and I think they did get out to a double-digit lead maybe once, it always felt like they were connected, they were close enough. They were never down like 15, 20 or anything like that. So on that front, I felt like they actually had a really good game. And when you consider, like I said, the Celtics might be the best team in the NBA. I mean, there's a couple teams you could say, but I mean, based on how they look tonight and how they've looked this season, that's at least one of the best teams in the NBA
for sure.
And they're fully healthy and looking great. And considering the guys that they had, down already, I thought there were a lot of positives too. I think my biggest positive though, besides Santi, I thought had an awesome game, but Vince Williams Jr., I really loved his minutes and the way that he kind of got the crowd into it. He was just all hard out there. Did some good things on Tatum, did some good stuff on Brown as well. And then I just really love watching him on the defensive end of the floor. Those VCU guys, man.
Yeah. They're tough, man. They're tough. Vince played his tail off. And how many minutes did he end up getting tonight? Vince had 17 minutes. Obviously, I believe it's one of the most he's played in his entire career, I would say. Meaningful minutes. He's probably played more than that on just some trash minutes, but meaningful minutes. Honestly, he played very well. If you look at the box score, and I know some people watch the box score and they see that, hey, he had this. What's his plus minus? +8, whatever. Okay, that was fine. But if you look at his box score, there's nothing there that just says, hey, he had a great game. The fact that he played the defense he had, he knocked down some really key, crucial shots, and he played within himself as a young player. That's all you can ask for out of these young dudes. And sometimes that gets lost in the translation and it gets lost in the numbers because what Vince did, honestly, what a lot of these young guys did tonight. Zaire didn't look great at times. He looked great at times, and then he had that putback dunked towards the end of the game. He had a lot to go. So overall, what do you think about the young guys as a whole? Like, do you think that they're maturing and getting better, or they could actually, this is the reason that they played so well, the Grizzlies, as of late? Or is it because of players like Santi, who is still young, but he's just kind of coming into his own?
Well, I definitely consider Santi still in that young player because I mean, this is what, year 3 for him, and I really liked what I saw from him playing in FIBA, and I think you can kind of see that. And I really like him playing at the 3 a little bit. I like that they kind of went with that kind of lineup early in the game because it gave them a little bit more size. And as you saw tonight, I mean, the pass in the clutch, that was just like, that's where you see like the young player thing. Like you don't need to, like, the Magic Johnson passes are cool in the second and third quarter, but when it's in the clutch, like you can't be throwing no look passes like that unless like that's what you're known for. Like, and I like the other passes he had, but like, yeah, that one was tough for him. So it's like you still see some of that young player stuff, but the way that he's played offensively, the way that he shot the ball tonight, and for me, really the way that he hustled. Like the way that he hustled tonight was really the biggest thing. He was going after every loose ball, felt like he was really big on the glass, had a double-double. Looked like for a little bit he would have had a chance at a triple-double. He had like 6 assists already in the third quarter, but still finished with 6. But I really liked what Santi did. Zaire is one of those players where I know he's kind of polarizing. I feel like there's some people that really like what he does and some people that don't. For me, it's just about him being consistent. But the thing that I do love about Zaire is that same thing I said about Santi. You never question his effort. Like the biggest question is like, okay, maybe his shot isn't falling. Maybe that wasn't the best like shot to take, but he's always hustling out there. And I feel like he's done a really good job on the glass this year too, which I think has been really underrated. And like that putback that he had late in the game was a huge play as well. So I did like what I saw from Zaire mostly in that second half after really starting slow. And I think for him, it's really just about confidence, I feel like when he plays with that confidence, like you saw in that game last night, and it's like you see everything that he could be, playing great defense, getting rebounds, and then it's just doing that consistently is his issue, and that's a lot of young players in the NBA though.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, they're growing up a little bit, but you're going to have things like this, like Dak Daniels says. Zaire is consistently inconsistent. Like,
that's the perfect way to put it. Yeah,
it very much is, because the simple fact that Zaire could not dribble a couple of games ago, like literally could not dribble. And eventually tonight, he is running a lot of the offense in that second half, doing a lot of the pick and roll with Kenny. It was a very good version of himself. Whatever that eventually comes, I want him to be that version. It's more of the creator, the guy in the ball with his hands a little bit more in that, I guess, in the 2 area. And so I'm hoping, we'll see. And then our very own hater, Goon the Shooter, hating on Jaren. He just hates Jaren. Let's get to a couple of these comments. I want to go back to one. This is exactly, Volcano just says, we barely lost. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Volcano. And this is what I'll say. So smooth southpaw, you could not ask for a better shot there with Santi. What are your thoughts on just kind of, I don't know, the refs not seeing the timeout call? I know that's a tough call because honestly, the game's moving so fast. Do you hate the shot that we got?
So I don't necessarily hate the shot. I do wish that they could have called a timeout just because the Grizzlies are one of the best out of timeout teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, like, with that lineup out there, you don't have a true point guard out there too. Like, I feel like that's where you miss. Like, I feel like Ja is one of those guys. If he gets that, he's like, nah, we're calling timeout right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't really have that. They didn't really have that guy out there. And it really was just a really weird way that the game ended, because you would have expected the Celtics, like, traditionally basketball would say, oh, the Celtics, they should just dribble the ball out. And then Drew Holiday ends up going in and trying for that dunk. And it's just like, what? Like, when he went in for that, I was like, what? Like, that's just not what you expect at all. So I think it was kind of that. And then they were kind of like, oh, we have the ball. We have a chance to tie. And I feel like they in those situations, like it's hard just in sports in general, in those situations to like take a step back. Hey, we got a timeout. Let's call a timeout, get a good play here. But at the end of the day, I thought the shot they got was pretty good.
It was.
Based on the shot and the way that Santi had been playing and the way he'd been shooting the ball, like that's about as good of a look as you could have asked for. And if he makes it, you win the game. So
right.
I didn't hate that. I didn't hate the look, but yeah, I do wish they could have got the timeout. But I also understand, like, it's hard with whatever everything that was going on at the end of the game. The refs are looking at fouls and stuff, but like, I hate that they couldn't get that timeout. They would get like a for real play call because they really had a chance.
Yeah, no, I agree. And honestly, like, what do you want coming out of a timeout in general? You want an open look. The Grizzlies got a wide open look, and it was Santi, who has been honestly one of the better players, if not the best player in the entire game. And so you can't hate him for that. So listen, we're going to go ahead and go over a lot of the players. I'm going to dig into a little bit of these stats a little bit and kind of go over that with you. We are Grizz 901. We do the post game each and every show. Normally Nathan is here with me. He's actually, I think he's in town. If he's not in town just yet, I know he's in Tennessee. But I know he's out in West Tennessee somewhere. But he will be with me back Wednesday night. I believe he'll be back with me. But Bryson Wright's here from the Grizz Next Gen podcast. He's here with Bluff City Media. Listen, he does everything, okay? And so everybody loves him. Everybody follows him on Twitter. So if you do follow him, this is probably why you're here watching. And so thank you for joining us. If you don't know anything about us, we do the post games, like I said, each and every time. And so we were here no matter what is happening. Somebody will be here and we will have a show. But we're with Bluff City Media. You can catch us over at Bluff City Media on YouTube. Also, we have our show that streams every time on Grizz 901 over on YouTube as well. So if you just want just our content only, that's why we put that up there. But if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter, come join us. Also Facebook, come join us over on YouTube. That way we can see your comments. We're going to go through a lot of those. But the next thing I want to get to is the player of the game. And we gave it to the same guy last night, only because he played great. And I think Desmond Bane deserves it probably each and every night. But tonight, even though Desmond Bane has more points than him, I think this guy, and Santi Aldama, is the player of the game for the Grizz 901 with 28 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and then 6 deep balls. Would this be your player of the game?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and it's kind of like, I think Desmond Bane could be like you said, he could be player of the game every night. That's what you expect from him. But to see him really come out and do that, coming off the bench when the Grizzlies really needed that spark, and really just coming into the starting lineup. He's used to coming off the bench. Now he's in the starting lineup, everything like that. And I really felt like he was huge, and I felt like he had just an awesome game. And this has been a good stretch for him, even though the Grizzlies, I think are 1-2 in these last 3 games, but he's had 3 really good games.
Yeah, Santi is playing well. And it looks like he's getting a little bit of his machismo, like his confidence is coming, man. The fact that he was just jacking him up early, I love that. I know some people might shy away from that. Some people might hate that. But if you're feeling yourself, you're going to find your shot somehow, some way. And the best way to find your shot is to shoot. And so Santi was shooting. And so I want to give out another shout out to Santi and the rest of the team. But the Grizz 901 player of the game is Santi Aldama. Let's get to some of these comments real quick. I'm going to go back to one in particular. Hey, LOL, nope. Jones, great podcast. Hey, appreciate that, buddy. Nate is somehow watching, listening, something. Zaire minutes. There's like a love-hate with Zaire. But Zaire did play good tonight. I want to ask you this on Bryson. When do you think Brandon Clark returns? That's from Mike M. Do you think it's this season at all?
Just because of how they usually are with injuries, I'd say probably not. But if it was this season, I wouldn't expect it until at least after the All-Star break. Just because when he did get hurt last year, it was in February. I'm pretty sure, it was like the beginning of February. So they usually take at least a full year off.
Yeah.
And I guess it'll probably depend on where exactly the Grizzlies are at around that point to see what they decide and how he's feeling. From everything that we've heard, his rehab is going well and everything. They've seen him walking around at practice without a boot on and stuff. So all of that is good. But the Grizzlies are going to make sure that he's back to 100% before he comes back. So I wouldn't expect him back this year, but I mean, I'm not saying it's out of the question for him to come back this year either.
Is there any chance we can go get Brandon Clark with Aaron Rodgers' doctors?
Yeah, dude, I don't know how that works. When I heard that he's expected to come back, I mean, that's ridiculous. I don't know if it's because of what Aaron Rodgers does over the summer or what. I don't know, but that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect that. I wouldn't expect that from Brandon Clark.
No, I don't either. Hitting on this, I think it's very important. I'm sorry to wrap up the Brandon Clark stuff. I don't expect him this season. I think this season is going to be done in that area. I don't see a reason to rushing back. Now, if for some reason the Grizzlies play like that, like they did tonight, but actually get Ja back, maybe make some moves, then yeah, you're talking about a whole different team. There has been little to no effort or energy from this team. There's no mojo. Tonight looks like they found a little bit of it. This game, as Jack moved Johnny. Ooh, I like the name. I see. I'm a big fan of names or weird names or whatever. So Jack Move Johnny says this game has to be more hopeful for the future. What say you, Bryson?
I mean, I think that as a whole, you're starting to see, like, especially these last 2 nights, you're starting to see some of the good vibes of the team come back a little bit. So I do feel like it's more hopeful for the future. I do feel like the thing for them is just trying not to get too big of a hole, because I do feel like in a lot of these games, if they did have Ja, that puts them over the top in a couple of these. It's not like they've been getting consistently blown out, and it feels like some of these like clutch games, like if you have Ja Morant in the game, maybe you get a better look. Maybe not on that very last shot, but those 2 possessions where you had a turnover and then Bane misses that 3. If you have Ja out there, maybe you get a better shot. He's gonna draw more attention at the rim. Maybe instead of Bane being the creator, you get Bane on a catch and shoot look after, Ja floats in the air for 4 seconds or whatever he does, and then passes it out to him like he's done a lot. So, yeah, I am hopeful for the future. And I think that the things that you're seeing is that if they can finally get healthy, because like I said, they're still missing a lot of guys.
Right.
In a game like tonight, I felt like they did better on a lot of the things that they had struggled with. I feel like down the stretch, obviously they give a couple open threes, but overall, I felt like they were better guarding the 3-point line. Zaire's got to go over screens. That's one thing. But overall, I thought they did a better job, especially because the Celtics are a really good 3-point shooting team. Besides Sam Hauser, he was making everything. But besides him, I felt like they did pretty good.
Listen, if you know anything like in Bluff City Bets, what we do, I was hammering Sam Hauser. I know I had this with Ryan. As soon as they released his lines for 3+ 3-pointers, 4+ 3-pointers, if it would have been 6+ 3-pointers, I would have bet it tonight, because I was betting everything on him. And the fact that he had 4 3-pointers, which was the max amount that I could bet on him, he hit that about halftime. So I was a happy camper tonight. A few more of these I want to hit on real quick. I saw another one. So my conspiracy theory of last night that Ryan put me onto this, that Patrick St. Andrews was actually not on the bench last game for whatever reason in San Antonio. I don't know. Nobody's actually said why he wasn't. The Grizzlies had a different style of offense, and even Taylor Jenkins came out as of late and said that they're going to do more of a motion style offense than just the pick and roll type. But him being back on the bench tonight just showed that the conspiracy theory is over. He's not fired. They're not moving on from him. He's back on the team. But this is the question I want to get to. This is from Nate. Dez on All NBA this year. What will it take? And do you think he has a chance?
I think that he will have a chance. It's just going to be tough just because the guard position is so difficult. And like he's probably going to have to go in as a guard. And then when you have guys that are going to be there, like Curry's going to be there, probably SGA, Booker, and guys like that that are going to be there every year. But I think he is going to have a chance. I think if he keeps playing the way he's playing now, he'll have a chance. But the Grizzlies are going to have to win. They're going to have to be in a better position at the end of the season. Obviously, if they're going to have to be in a playoff spot, like they're going to have to be top 6, I think.
Wow. That's
So
a lot.
I don't know. It's we'll see what happens.
All right, we do have Jenkins' press conference real quick, so let me go ahead and get to that. I'm going to go ahead and play that for everybody real quick.
Great defensive stand, had a transition opportunity, got a wide open three, take it every day of the week. Super proud of how our guys played today. The fight, a couple possessions, love to have back at the end, crucial turnover. Dez had a good look at three, maybe just lost his balance, but love the defense. Came up with a stop, we had an advantage, we had a wide open three, take it every day of the week. Yes.
Taylor, so career night from Santi, just an opportunity for him to showcase his versatility. Just how does not only just this game, but the opportunity with a lot of these guys out, how do you see that just enhancing his development as a player and to the vision that you're hoping that he becomes off the bench?
Yeah, tonight was great. I think he played 3, 4, and 5 for us tonight with, foul trouble and changing lineups in the meat of the game. He was awesome. Career night, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 made threes. Just been talking about just playing with a lot of aggression. We talked about that coming out of the summer. He's got so much versatility. Just really proud of the offensive effort tonight. We needed that. It didn't matter what his, position was. He started at the 3, slid to the 4. I think with our second unit, then had to play some 5, and he can be a playmaker for us. So really impressed. But as I said, the aggressiveness, especially from the 3-point line, something he's been working a lot on since the start of the season. Talked to him the other day about it. Just really impressed with just how he, really was in attack mode tonight. Closeouts, driving and kicking, really impressive.
All right, that was Taylor Jenkins. Any thoughts on that? What he just said, except for a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, obviously the Santi being versatile, like playing multiple positions, I think is going to be big, especially with the injuries they have. So I think that is something that's really emerged like these last couple games is his ability to play the 3, because the Grizzlies do still have kind of like a wing issue. They don't have a lot of size at the wing position. And even they would have had Marcus Smart trying to play a little bit of that wing, if the team was fully healthy too. But now he's out too, even though he is still undersized for that position too. So just having somebody who has a little bit more length out there, I think is good. And then his ability to play in all those different roles, like you said. So I like that part. But yeah, and like he said, I agree that I thought that was a pretty good last shot, all things considered too. You can't ask for much better of a shot. Chance to win the game. So yeah,
that was the I think that's the thing. In the end of the game, just an open shot is going to be a good shot for you. No matter what you draw up, you're going to get that. That's what you want in the end. Santi, my thoughts on Santi is very similar to what I kind of see in Brandon Clark. In a sense, like in the playoffs, you have certain players that help you be versatile on offense, but also defense. As in Brandon Clark, he does help you be a little bit more versatile. If you can go over and have the same argument with Steven Adams, he allows you to be a little bit more versatile, because with those two guys, Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, one, if you need to go big, you lean on Steve-O a little bit. If you need to go smaller, need a little bit more athletic, you can lean on BC. Well, in the same sense, in a different type of way, with Santi, you have the ability to play a little big at times. If you want to make him the 3, if you want to make him small, you can go down and move him to the 4. If you want to go smaller than that, because you have just so many issues, you feel confident that if you need to, you can run a good 5-minute stretch with him being at the 5. That allows you to be very versatile in the regular season, 100%. But in the playoffs, that's big, because it allows you to make the other team game plan for you. And I think that's very crucial in minutes that you can get him. So we're going to see. I'm curious of how he is kind of viewed in the future, because it looks like he's getting a chance to really be a solid starter in the I guess on the team going forward. I want to talk about that in our next segment, though. I want to go ahead and put our bow on this game in general. So give me your thoughts on, I guess, this game, and that's it. No more looking to the future, just this game. Let's put a bow on it. Let's get to our next segment.
Yeah. So I will say, I see that there's comments about Jared and the thing. So I did want to talk about that a little bit.
Go ahead.
Just because I'm seeing the comments. So it's 100% a fact that Jaren, he's a matchup guy. So he goes at players whenever there's somebody who's smaller than him or there's somebody that's not as quick as him, he's gonna have a better game. So like when he's playing Zach Collins, like that's the kind of matchup he's good at. But he struggles with guys that are as tall or taller than him that are also athletic. So the Anthony Davis, the Kristaps Porzingis, those type of players are the ones that he's always going to struggle against. And then I think Drew Holiday, like I said, Drew Holiday played really good defense on him. And I think that Drew Holiday is one of the smartest defenders in the NBA too. Jaren has that size advantage, but he just didn't. I feel like there was a couple times where if he had just spun the other way instead of going up over the left, because I think early in the game it's like he loves going left so much. I feel like if he would have turned right, because when he's going left, like the Celtics know that. So when he's turning left, that's also where Porzingis is. So it's like he's got Holiday on him, and then Porzingis is coming from the left side. And if he could kind of turn to the right and go the other way, I feel like he would have had a lot more easy finishes tonight. So that's what I'll say for him. And then, yeah, he's got to stay out of foul trouble too. Like him and Bismack both being in foul trouble with, Tillman already being out, Clark being out, Adams being out. You can't have that. You can't have both of them in foul trouble. No. So that's really just been an issue the last two nights too.
So,
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say, like, obviously people. I do think people are super hard on Jaren sometimes, but I do think, like, yeah, he could have played better tonight for sure. There's no question about that.
Listen, Goon is trolling. This is his shtick. We get it. No, some of it is really good, but he does hate Jaren, and so I'm glad you saw that. I listen. Sometimes I put them up, sometimes I don't, depending on how relevant they are to the conversation. But hit on Santi real quick, because Jack Daniels says he thinks he's kind of like a young Al Horford in a sense.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that a little bit, just because he does have that jump shot. And I think that I really saw most of that, like, when I was watching him play in FIBA, because when he played in FIBA, he basically exclusively was playing the three and playing on the perimeter more than anything. And then he also is a better ball handler than you would expect, and did some good things putting the ball on the floor. And that pump fake is nasty. Like the pump fake, he got Jason Tatum on it. And Jason Tatum just looked like dumbfounded afterwards. He was just like, I can't believe that I just let that happen. So those pump fakes that he has are really nice. And I thought he's done a really good job. And he's one of those guys where it's like, even I always go back to, like, when he got drafted, everybody was kind of like, who is that? Like, what? Like, nobody really knew who he was. You look at his stats and it's like, okay, he went to a really small school, but he put up good numbers. So it's like, whatever. And then just to see him kind of grow into this and continue to get better at because he always had some of the tools, but I feel like he's just continued to get better every year. And I think these last couple games, I know he started out hurt. And those first couple games, it was kind of, up and down. But I think you're finally seeing him now get into a rhythm. And you're starting to see the type of player. Like, I'm not saying he's going to average 28 a game, but you're starting to see the type of games that he can have.
Yeah, I agree. Let's go ahead and end the Celtics talk real quick. I'm gonna go through some of these numbers real quick, and just kind of, if you have any thoughts, just go ahead and share real quick. But Tatum, an average game, 20-9, and that being average is fine. 29-5. Porzingis, he played well early. He ended with 26-8, 8-1. Drew Holiday, he just, I don't know. It just looks like he is the guy who just plays defense, and that's it. Like, he is non-existent.
He doesn't have to. That's true. Like, he doesn't have to. The way that their team is set up, he's just playing his role. Like, that's all I see.
Right.
I would have expected him to be more of a playmaker, maybe, but yeah, he doesn't have to do much on offense just because they have Tatum and Brown and Porzingis when he played the way they did tonight. Like, they're going to run the offense mostly through those guys.
Yeah, I agree. This is one of the worst Derek White games I've seen against the Grizzlies. Usually he torches us. One of the worst ones. And then Jaylen Brown, it was fine. I think he got his shot when he wanted to. I think he got to the front of the rim when he wanted to. I think he tried to do a lot more using his size against some of our young guys. But overall, Tatum shot 1 of 1 from deep. Porzingis 0-3. Drew Holiday 1 of 3. Derek White 2 of 5. And Jaylen Brown 1 of 7. Like, overall, that is not good. Really, honestly, what helped them the most is Sam Hauser going 5 of 7 from deep. He's the only guy on the bench that is just any good. I don't. Peyton Pritchard's fine. Al Horford looks old. He looks old, and I've never thought that until this year. He just looks old, and then that's it. That's all they have coming off the bench.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job on Jaylen Brown. I thought Vince Williams did a really good job when he got to guard him a little bit. I thought he did a great job on him. But obviously, you know, they're going to make some plays. That's all-star, all-NBA caliber players. And then, you know, Jason Tatum made one of those big threes at the end of the game. It's like you said, I think it was his only 3 that he made the entire night, but it was at the most important time of the game. Like, that's just what those kind of players do.
For sure. All right, that's enough of that. Grizzlies lose 102-100. It was very promising, we'll say. But I want to ask you some questions real quick about kind of what the rotation could look like if they're going to put Santi maybe into the rotation, into the starting rotation, because right now you have Conchar there. I think you can easily move him out with Santi. The problem is how do they overlap? So I want to ask you some of those questions, but real quick, I'm going to take a minute break. Let's let you hear a little bit of a commercial of Anthony Saint Show that is live on Wednesdays and Fridays at noon.
Yeah, because Zach Randolph went into the Blazers organization that had some characters. Underline the word characters, okay? He's coming from Michigan State. He's from Marion, Indiana. And then you go to Portland, Oregon, which it's an entirely different culture, entirely different demographic. He had people around him who were guys from Marion. Hey, you owe us. Anthony, one of the key memories of my time here in Memphis off the court, I did a Read to Achieve event with Zach Randolph. And the kid who read the most books, his prize was to get to interview Zach Randolph. And the young man, first question to Zach is, what's the hardest thing for a black athlete to learn? And Zach did not give him any, like BS fluff answer. He said, a lot of times the people who say they're your friends, they're not your friends. And you have to pick the people around you very, very wisely.
Tune in to The Anthony Sain Show, Wednesdays and Fridays at 12 p.m. weekly on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
All right, we were back. We are Grizz 901 podcast. We are the post-game show for Bluff City Media. Make sure you tune in each and every game. The next game is against the Rockets. It looks like we're going to have a 7 o'clock start, so another 9:30-ish start here on the post-game show. So make sure you tune in on that Wednesday. But make sure you tune in to the rest of the content that's coming out. It's going to be obviously it's a holiday week. People are going to be traveling. And so if you have any requests, anything that you want to have us to put on the show, maybe any ideas, please hit us up in the comments, but also our DMs over on Twitter at Grizz 901 Podcast. But we're here with Bryson Wright of Bluff City Media and the Grizz Next Gen Podcast. I want to ask about that Santi question I have going forward. Do you see them go ahead and riding with Santi in the starting rotation?
I think that based on the way he's played the last 3 games, I think he definitely could. I wouldn't be surprised if they even bring Gilliard back into the starting rotation too, and maybe run, Gilliard, Bane, Santi with Bismack and Jaren. I think that's definitely a possibility too. Just because I do think they do need some of that size on the wing. And then Zaire, like I said, he's been kind of inconsistent. I think he has been better. He's been better in the second half of the game mostly. But I do also I don't hate the lineup that they did run where they had Zaire and Bane out there with Santi and Bismack and Jaren, especially closing that last game. I don't hate that lineup either. But I think that having Santi out there is definitely for the best for this team right now, just because he brings like some extra shooting now that, he's been shooting the ball really well.
Right.
Like I said, he can put the ball on the floor. He can do a lot of things, and he's a good enough facilitator to also play out there on the wing. And then I feel like he's been playing a lot better on defense too. Like I feel like he's been pretty good defensively and everything too. So I think that just makes you feel a lot better. It's going to be a matchup thing. So maybe on certain nights you wouldn't want to do that. Like I wouldn't want to put him on a guy like Kevin Durant, but obviously you can move guys and play guys against different people and stuff like that. So I think that right now, just because of all the injuries, I think that having him out there in the starting lineup is probably for the best, though.
Yeah, I think so too. And what you were saying about Gilliard allows them to run the offense, honestly. And then they're kind of being a little bit more, they have more size, right? So if you were to switch out just Conchar and Gilliard, kind of like you were explaining, then you have, obviously the size differential of Jacob Gilliard, which is undersized, but then you're oversized in every other area, which could honestly kind of even out the scales a little bit in a sense. So I think that could be a good call. I think keeping Santi in the starting rotation is kind of the key to this. The way they've been playing, he's got some energy, he's got some swag, and honestly, he's going to just pull. And that's what you want. You need somebody to shoot because right now, Jaren can shoot and Jaren can do some things, but he can't just do it off of a whim. He can't just come around a screen. He can't catch and shoot as easily as Santi is. He can, but he just doesn't. Let's see the question from Sid Martin real quick. It's about Santi, about his most recent development. Do you think it's going to be consistent?
So I don't think he's going to be a 20-point per game scorer. Like that kind of thing. I could see him as a guy that comes off the bench averaging like 14. Like I could see that I could definitely see that pretty easily, especially if they do get some guys back and he goes back into kind of like that 6th, 7th man role where he's like one of the first people off the bench. But I think they also could run some of those bench lineups and run the offense through him a little bit more, just because he's shown the ability to be a good passer. And like I said, put the ball on the floor and do all of that. So is he going to be averaging like 20 a game like that? Like, no, but I think like he's going to be a consistent guy. Like you're going to look on the box score and like any night he might get you 20. Like, you know what I mean? He might do it, but I think you're going to see him have a lot of games where he'll have 14, 15, 16 points. Like I see that as where he's probably going to stay around. But right now, the way that he's been playing with the guys that are out, I think that if he continues to just shoot the ball the way that he has and take those shots I think he took 27 shots tonight. I know he didn't shoot the ball like incredibly, but like it didn't really feel like he was taking bad shots either. No. It didn't really feel like he was just out there shot chucking. Like most of the shots were pretty solid looks, I would say. Yeah. So I was not mad at the shots he took. And when you see the other guys that are already out, somebody's got to take them. And I'm with Santi taking them based on how he played. And I think these next couple games, Smart being out, not sure when Kennard is going to be back, not sure when Tillman's going to be back. I think you could see a scoring jump from him right now just because he's going to have such a usage increase. Yeah, so Santi took 11 and 27. So did Bain. Went 11 and 27. Bain was one better. He went 7 of 14, and Aldama went 6 of 15 from deep. And so a little bit pretty close on the stat line in general. But thank you for that, Sid. I want to ask another question about Vince Williams. Everybody loves Vince Williams. He's played very well. I am a big guy on John Conchar for the simple fact that I think John Conchar doesn't need the ball. And I think he does the little things. I've always said that John Conchar is a fine NBA player. He's a guy that an NBA coach loves because he's not going to cost you a lot of money. He's not going to cause you any issues. He's not going to lose you the game. He's also not going to win you the game. He's going to do the dirty work. And that's really what you want in a coach. You want a guy that you can depend on. Worst comes to worst, and you have that guy. Reminds me very much of Xavier Tillman. But when I look at some of these players that we have, a la Vince Williams, I think he can be a upgrade to a John Conchar if he would do the little things as well as knock down an open three here and there. So any thoughts on Vince Williams, whether he might have actually pulled the opening back? Was it the lid? Then they had like everything's kind of sealed in there, and he's kind of open it back a little bit, and you can kind of start to smell some stuff, you're opening up. Is that where he is? No. He just now opening up? I think so. Yeah, because I think he does the little things, like you said. Because I do agree. I think when Conchar out there, he does do the little things. He's not the guy that's going to go out there and win you the game, like you said. But he's not going to go out there and lose to the game most of the time either. But most of the time. Vince, yeah, exactly. But when you're like tonight, when you're like they had Conchar on Jason Tatum and sometimes, and it's like I feel much better with Vince Williams in that matchup, right? Just because I think Vince Williams, he's taller, he's got longer arms, and I just think he's a better one-on-one defender for something like that.
Right.
So I'm not opposed at all to having Vince Williams Jr. out there, especially like I said, with all the injuries they have. I think all these people should be getting a chance. I think this is time for Gigi Jackson to even get a chance. Like at this point, it's like just see what you have in some of these guys because right, you've got a lot of people out. So it's a good chance to see what you get. And I think inserting Vince Williams when he did, I think that was awesome. I think it was the perfect timing. Honestly, I feel like he probably even could have played more tonight. I feel like he really could have played more tonight.
Yeah, there's not much split between them. Obviously, there's 9 minutes, but 17 minutes and 26 minutes, it's all about just starting. I didn't think you'd go back to Conchar in the game. Those last 6 or so minutes, I didn't think he'd go back there. I thought they would be split up between maybe a Roddy, Zaire, maybe even Vince. But you know what? He went with him. Sid Martin thinks Conchar is a Dollar Tree Caruso. That's funny. Another one. So Savage on Twitter says that Vince has been stuck behind Malibu's Most Wanted. I believe he's called. Yeah, we can now call Jake LaRavia Jaravia.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just because of the defense, like, no offense to Jake, but he doesn't have that defense that Vince Williams does.
Yeah.
Like Vince Williams made more plays on defense tonight than I've seen from Jake in the last 2 seasons.
100%.
So, and I think just that part of it is just a huge part of it. And then if Vince is making shots, like I think he made a couple shots tonight. I think, and he's not a bad shooter. I know that at the end of the year last year, he had that really bad game where he played the entire game, but he is supposed to be a good shooter. He was a good shooter in college. We've seen it in the summer league and stuff like that. So if you leave him open, I think he's gonna be able to knock down some shots too. But just everything that he does on defense, it just really helps the team. And I feel like it kind of brought a lot of energy, not just to the team, but to the fans. Like I think Memphis is one of those cities where anytime there's somebody like getting on the floor and making hustle plays, that's almost more exciting than the poster dunks to the fans that are there. And I feel like Vince really like brought that energy along with Santi hustling for those rebounds and stuff too. So I really thought that energy was a big reason why they were in the game too.
Yep, I agree. I honestly, I think, I don't know. I'm not worried about Jake Arabia. I think Jake's time is kind of donezo. Unfortunately, I just think that he's going to be the guy that's going to be put in a trade somehow, some way. I think that what they're doing right now, I think they're just trying to make sure they get him down to the hustle and make it seem like he's better than he is, or maybe worst case, he is good. And somehow he just catches lightning in a bottle and he just plays well for us the rest of the year. I don't know. Worst case, you put him at the hustle. He starts playing better. Maybe gets his confidence up. Throw him into a trade somewhere. And that might be how you shine him up real good and pass it on. So Alan wants to sign Vince to a Conchar deal. Listen, I'm not against that. I would be down with that. I would like the earlier years of the Conchar deal before he got the $4 million, or I think that's next year that $4 million comes into play. And then Sid says Zaire is our Patrick Williams. Listen, Zaire is a little better than Patrick Williams right now. Patrick Williams has been sucking. All right, let's get to instead of taking our break, I'm going to go ahead and skip it again because we're already at the 45-minute mark, and I don't want this to go on forever. This is not a Nathan show where we go over an hour. I want this to be done, hopefully wrapped up soon. Let's go ahead and get into our Rockets preview. So the Grizzlies take on the Rockets Saturday night, 7 o'clock on the road before they do come home. The next 3 at home after this game. The Rockets are currently playing against the Lakers at the Lakers, and they are 62-64 as of right now. First thoughts on the Rockets?
Well, obviously, the first thought is it's the Dillon Brooks game, and it's going to be funny. Like, I'm 100% thinking that Dillon Brooks is going to be on some antics. Like, he's been staring at people before the game. He's going to be staring at Desmond Bane before the game. Like, I can already, because that's the matchup they're going to do. And it's going to be Desmond Bane versus Dillon Brooks. The matchup that has happened in practice thousands of times. Right. We're finally going to get to see it. So I think it's going to be awesome. But obviously that's the number one thing, and seeing how that looks and seeing how that matchup really goes, I think that's going to be huge. But
before you leave that question, I have a question. So last show, some people were saying that Dillon Brooks might get a little chippy with Dillon. What's your thoughts on that? Because my thoughts are these two guys like each other. They're going to be aggressive, and they're going to, obviously want to get the best of the other player, especially Dillon, who's the one who was traded. But I don't know about chippy. I don't see it getting chippy to the point of, somebody getting mad or upset. I think it might be, two guys going at it hard, but not chippy.
So I think that in terms, like, I don't think anybody's going to start fighting or something like that. But there's going to be trash talk. There's going to be a little bit of chippiness. There's going to be a little bit of a different edge to this game. But I think it's also because they do like each other. Because, if you're like, I feel like some of the most competitive basketball games, like, obviously I'm not in the NBA, but the most competitive basketball games I've ever played are with my best friends, because that's when you're going for bragging rights too. So obviously it's an NBA game, but it's like, hey, this is the dude I've been playing with the last 4 or 5 years. Yep. I'm trying to show him up so then I can text him after the game and do this too. And so there's going to be some of that talking trash. I think it is going to be coming from a place of love though. Like, I think, especially, I don't think Dillon has any issues with the guys on the team at all. I know he said some stuff about the scapegoat stuff, but it's not like Desmond Bane decided if they were going to re-sign Dillon Brooks or not. You know what I mean? I think with the guys on the team, I don't think he's going to have any animosity from them. But I think he's also, like, he's going to be locked in. He's going to be ready for that matchup. And I think there could be some chippiness, a little bit of chippiness. I don't think we're not going to see any, like, Rudy Gobert or Draymond Green stuff, like, nothing like that. But, we might see somebody getting in somebody's face and stuff like that. I think we're definitely going to see some of that. I
like it. All right. What was your next thing you're going to go to?
Yeah. I was going to say it's going to be interesting to see how they match up. I think Alperen Sengun has been playing really well these last few games.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. I want to see what they're going to do with him. Fred VanVleet obviously is one of those guys where if you leave him open, he's going to be knocking down a lot of threes. And I feel like he's had some of those games against the Grizzlies in the past too. So I'd be watching out for him as well in terms of the Rockets. But yeah, hopefully Bane can win that Dillon Brooks matchup. And then they're going to need Jaren to be really aggressive, and they're going to need Jaren to be better than he was tonight if they're going to win that game, just because he is going to have a better matchup. But he probably going to be guarded by Sengun, and then also he's going to be talking about or he might be guarded by Jabari Smith maybe, but I think both of those matchups are matchups where Jaren should be able to win those. So hopefully we can get a better version of him in that game.
Yeah, I don't think this is the Bismack Biyombo game. Me personally, I think he can match up good with Alperen Sengun very well. I don't know if this is the game that you really have to rely on Biyombo in a sense, because if you're looking at Sengun, like, he can be, obviously Jaren can play against him. Aldama can play against him because he's going to stay in the paint. He is going to facilitate a little bit, but it's not going to be like overwhelming. Like, he is a guy who goes and gets a lot of boards. And so you want Biyombo for that. But for the simple fact that you can actually go a little bit smaller on this team, in a sense, because you want to have a little bit more athleticism, because that's kind of what that's what they want to do. And that's what they want to be. But Jabari Smith, Dillon Brooks, Alperen Sengun, Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, they're going to shoot a lot, and they're going to just try to be more athletic in a sense. And so really, there's nobody that rebounds the ball very well outside of Sengun. So I'm curious how they play it. They might go with, is it Jack or Jake Landale? Is it?
Oh, Jock Landale. Yeah. Jock. I think it's Jock Landale.
Yeah, it's Jock. And then Jeff Green, the return of Jeff Green, Tari Eason.
Dude,
they have more size on the bench.
They do, and I really like Tari Eason coming out of that draft, and I think I saw him have like a poster dunk the other night too. So I think he's a solid guy too. But yeah, I think if they played the way they did tonight, though, I think that could definitely be good enough to win that game. Just because the way they played against the Celtics, the way they played even defensively against the Celtics, I thought was pretty good. So if they can bring that same defensive performance and then just hopefully make better decisions down the stretch, I think that's definitely a game that they can win. I just like that, like those first 6 games, like just starting 0-6 was so tough. But I feel like since that start, like since they won their first game, obviously they still haven't been good, but they've been they've been about what I would expect. I think they're like 3-4 in those games, like right around 500, which is what I would expect if they were healthy right now. Like that's what I would expect. So I feel like you're starting to see that a little bit better.
Yeah, they have played much better as of late. And so we have a battle right now. Nate says that Jaren's going to pop off against the Rockets. And then Goon the shooter's got to pop back in. He fell asleep, woke back up. Solid comment about Jaren. Maybe his notification went off. And so he's saying that Jaren's going to be bad against Smith and Şengün. So, and now he's calling him Tristan Thompson. Listen, I applaud you for going all in, but he's not Tristan Thompson. Let me go to something I was going to hit on real quick. Okay, so 13 games. So now we have 12 before Ja comes back. Okay, so the Grizzlies are 3-10 currently. Let's go ahead and I guess we're going to move past the Rocket stuff. I think we hit on that enough. Let's go ahead and wrap up the rest of this because I think it's important. And I want to get your thoughts on it before we get out of here. 3-10, 13 games overall so far. We have 12 left. What number can the Grizzlies get to before Ja gets back?
Well, let me go ahead and look at this schedule real quick before I make what I say. So I think it is going to be tough for them just because they do have a tough schedule coming up. But even if they can get to, let's say 8, just because they started 0-6, if they can get to 8, but that might be a lot. I don't know because that's what 5. What was that 5 and 6? Yeah, but see, they've got a tough stretch coming up. But so I think if they can get to 8, I would feel good based on how they started.
Oh, I would feel ecstatic. I would be over the moon if they can get to 8.
So if you're talking about where I think I'd be okay with, that's where I'd be. But still, they do have a tough stretch coming up because, I mean, they're playing the Suns twice. They're playing the Mavericks twice. They're playing the Rockets 3 times.
Yeah.
They're playing the Timberwolves. So it's like these – and they're playing the Jazz, which they've already lost to them twice. So – but I do think they're playing better now than they played than they were playing the first time they played the Jazz at least. So –
all right, what's your give me your prediction on where you think they end up because obviously they have the Rockets next, Suns, Timberwolves, Jazz, those next 3 after the Rockets all at home before they go into December. So at that point, with those 4, what would be your thoughts? How many can they win out of those next 4? We'll break it in bite-sized pieces. This might be easier. Think they can go 2-2?
I think, yeah, that's really what at this point, 2-2 is about which if you can get to 2-2, that's good with me. Like that's how I feel. If you go in these like 4 sections, because my whole thing has been trying to get to 500 as quickly as possible. Because once you get there, you're in a solid position just because of how the play-in and stuff works. At this point, if the Grizzlies are just like in the play-in, just because of how bad they've started, like getting to the play-in is solid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's gonna be tough for this stretch. Hopefully you get some guys back. Like hopefully Kennard can be back soon and Tillman can be back soon, so you have at least a little bit more. But yeah, 2-2 is probably about as good as you could hope for. But it's at home. The only thing is Anthony Edwards hates the Grizzlies. So like I'm not like, and I'm not even saying that jokingly. Like even before they played him in the playoffs, they asked him like, what team do you want to beat the most? And he said the Grizzlies. This was before they ever played in a playoff series. And he's been playing awesome. So, and that team's been playing really good. So I think that's going to be a crazy game as well. But yeah, Anthony Davis. Well, Anthony Davis also hates the Grizzlies, but Anthony Edwards hates the Grizzlies. So it's going to be wild to see. I'm expecting him to have a big game against us, honestly.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I expect him to have a big game anytime he gets on the court. So 2-2, I think would be realistic. I think it's possible. I wouldn't say it's probable, but I'd say it's possible for sure. They have to get that Rockets game, because if you say, hey, we can get one of these next 3, I think that's very doable. But if you lose that first game, then you say, I need to win 2 of the next 3, man,
they have to win at home at some point, man. Like, and I think that's the thing. They got to win a home game at some point. And I think that, but seeing them play the way they did against the Celtics does give me, more confidence for the next time they play at home in front of that crowd. Because I felt like the crowd did have a lot of energy. Yeah. And it feels like the games are feeling better, right. At least and I think some of the good vibes and stuff are coming back a little bit, but they just got to find a way to string some games together, which they still haven't been able to win back-to-back games. Like, I think the first time they win back-to-back games, that's going to be when you start to feel a lot better about the team. But yeah, they haven't been able to do it yet, and they haven't won a game at home. I think they've already lost more games at home this year than they did all of last season now. So
it's close. I know they lost 5, I think, all of last year, I believe. So I don't know what the number is yet. LOL, nope. Jones says, what would our record be if we split every game? And that would be 9 and whatever. What are we? 16? Is that right?
Yeah, 9 and 16.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
25.
sure.
Yep. So that's not happening. 9 and 16. I'm sorry, but it's out. Prediction: if you had to go with one, I've said that I think they can get to 6 wins. I think 6 is a doable number. Anything over 6, I'm happy about. 8 or more, I'm over the moon. And so give me 6 or 7, I'm okay. 8, that's just, you're playing with house money at that point. And that sounds terrible. 8 wins in the first 25 games. But as bad as it started, then you're getting one of your best, if not the best player, young player. So the best player on this team back. I think that gives you a lot of little swagger, little mojo heading your way. We'll see.
Well, yeah, because the thing that really just killed them was the fact that they started 0-6.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like you didn't even start the season until the 7th game. So it's like, since then, like I said, they've been 3-4, and 3-4 isn't good. But if you start the season 3-4 instead of 0-6,
different,
you're in just such a better place. And so at this point, it's just trying to get back to 500. Like, that's all they got to do. And then just like you said, even if they are, and this is the thing, right? The year that they won 56 games, I think they started 9 and 10. The year they won 56 games. So obviously this is worse than that, because right now they're 3 and 10. So this is obviously much worse. But we have seen teams like that year they got the 2 seed. So it's not out of the question that if Ja comes back and they string some games together, even if it's a play-in spot, the season is far from over. And I think just the more games that they can get now, it just makes that even more likely. But yeah, like you said, even if they are 6 and 19 is really bad, right? Obviously, 6 and 19 is pretty horrible. But it's just because it's just how long the NBA season is.
Yeah.
You have a chance. There are teams I think at this time last year, the Jazz were number 1 in the West.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and they didn't even make the play-in game.
Right.
So a lot can change. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be tough just because they have a tough stretch. And I think that's why them starting 0-6 was so tough, was because they had a chance to win most of those games. You don't expect them to beat the Nuggets, obviously,
right?
Stuff like that.
And that's the game they played the best in.
And then that was the game they played. But it's so crazy. It's the games were coming into this game against the Celtics, you're oh yeah, they're the best team in the NBA. And then this is one of their better performances of the season. Obviously, they still lose,
right.
But this is one of their better performances of the season. But you played the Spurs, who obviously I know they won that game, but it's just weird how the starts and stuff is so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I feel like they do a lot of playing to the level of their competition. I feel like they've always done that. So I think that we're going to continue to see that, but that's just going to have them in a lot of close games. And that's what we've seen so far. I feel like almost all of these games have been in the clutch lately. You know what I mean? Like down the stretch, they have a chance to win the game. And I think that's the thing that makes me feel the best is because I'm thinking if you have Ja Morant in the clutch in all of these games, how much better is their record? You know what I mean? So that makes me feel better about the second half of the season, just because I feel like if they had Ja, like I'm not saying that they would. I'm not saying that Ja is going to fix all the issues, and there aren't still a lot of roster problems, roster construction, all that. There's some stuff that the Grizzlies still got to get better at, but there's a couple of these games where 2 or 3 buckets in the stretch, down the stretch, is the difference in the game, and that's when you're used to getting those from one of the best fourth quarter scorers in the NBA and everything like that. So that is something that does give me some hope for like after he comes back. But yeah, it's just gonna be all these games are gonna be really tough, especially with these tough games coming up. And like I said, we're playing Dylan Brooks a bunch of times now, so it's gonna be crazy. I'm expecting some wild stuff. Like I'm expecting some antics. I don't know exactly what it's gonna be, but there's gonna be technical fouls. I know that.
Wow.
If I don't know. I don't really bet like that. But if you can bet on people to get technical fouls, I would bet on Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks over 0.5 technical fouls.
Wow.
Because I can see it coming. I can see it coming.
All right. I don't know if that's an option out there, but I'm going to look for it just to see if that is, because if it is, you know, I'll trust you on that one. I don't think it's going to get that chippy, but it could. Listen, any theatrics I'm okay with. I would love to see them get.
Oh, I love it. I hope it happens. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll see it. All right. Well, he is Bryson Wright of the Grizz Next Gen. Is that right? Grizz Next Gen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Next Gen podcast. Yeah.
Next Gen
podcast. Yeah.
So make sure you go follow him there. Him and Alex do the good show over there. And so make sure you tune into that if you're not already. And so they release, is it once a week? I think y'all do.
Yeah. Once a week.
Okay.
Yeah. We try to release on Thursdays. We're probably going to try to release it early this week just because, you know, it's Thanksgiving. So I don't want to release it on Thanksgiving. But yeah, and got some good stuff to talk about too. So
yeah, make sure you tune it in. Thank you for being here, man. I appreciate that. Anytime we can get you on, but also just other people from around Bluff City Media, but also around Grizz Nation, we're going to try to do that because obviously Nate and I can't be on every single show, and we're going to have to miss here and there. And so we're trying to broaden out a little bit. And so we have our eyes on some other podcasts, some other shows that we're going to bring on just for, you know, just the post game like this, whether it allows people to see you that maybe have not, you know who you are, or your audience maybe comes in and learns a little bit about us. And so I think it's always good to cross over like that. But Bryson, I can't thank you enough. It's been a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. And look, I'm always a DM away if you ever want somebody else or you want me to come back. I'm always down, especially to talk Grizz with y'all. Love y'all show. Try to tune in when I can as well, at least on Twitter. So love you and Nathan's show, and glad that y'all are doing this every night.
For sure, man. No doubt. Well, that's all we got tonight. We'll be back here on Wednesday about 9:30 around the same time. So make sure you tune in to the Grizz 901 post-game show. But that's it. Be nice and tell your friends.